Today in this video we are working on making our uppercase in and lowercase in, and we are working on this handwriting worksheet. So please make sure you get this out and you use your pencil and you write your name on this. Go ahead and pause the video while you get the paper and while you write your name on it. Okay, now we are going to review how to do our uppercase in. And I am going to scoot that back a little because I just bumped it. So we put our pencil on the dot. We make a big line from the ceiling to the floor. We lift our pencil up and frog jump, ribbit, and land back up there. And then we slide to the floor and do a big line back to the ceiling. Go ahead and trace that letter in and pause the video until you are finished with that. Now what we're going to do is we are going to trace these letter ends. Remember, we always begin at the top of the letter and we work our way down. We never start at the bottom. So we start up here at the ceiling, at the dot, and we make a big line from the ceiling to the floor. We ribbit, frog jump back up to the ceiling. We slide down to the floor and do a big line back up to the ceiling. Let's do another one. Start at the dot. Big line from the ceiling to the floor. Ribbit. That was our frog jump. Now we slide from the ceiling down to the floor and back up to the ceiling. Okay, we have two more. Ready? Start at the ceiling. Slide down to the floor with a big line. Ribbit. Start at the ceiling again. Slide down and big line up. One more time, because I accidentally said slide instead of a big line last time, because I am just silly like that sometimes. Okay, so put your pencil on the dot. Do a big line from the ceiling to the floor. Ribbit, frog jump back up. Slide from the ceiling to the floor, and then do a big line back up to the ceiling. Now, go ahead and pause the video if you need to while you finish that top line, because I don't want to go on until you are finished. Hopefully you have this top line finished. Let's go ahead and trace this in. Notice they give us a box to keep it in, because each letter cannot be really wide. It has to stay within its own little bubble or its own little box so that it doesn't bump into other letters. So put your pencil on the dot, do a big line from the ceiling to the floor, and notice how I'm holding my paper with my other hand, because if you don't, that paper is going to want to wiggle with you. Now you frog jump back up and you slide from the ceiling to the floor and then do a big line back up to the ceiling. Now on these, it does not give us the uppercase in to trace. It gives us the box to stay in, and it gives us the dot as to where to begin our letter. Are you ready? Watch, and then you can do it. Just put your pencil on the dot, do a big line to the floor and keep it nice and close to that side of the box. Frog jump back up, slide down to the floor, and then the big line back up to the ceiling. Do you see how my end stayed inside of my box? So it's not going to bump into any other letters. Go ahead and pause the video and try that. Now, I want you to try to do these others with me. Put your pencil on the dot, make a big line to the floor, ribbit, frog jump back up to the dot, slide from the ceiling to the floor, and then make a big line back up to the ceiling. Let's try it again. Put your pencil on the dot. Big line to the floor. Everyone say ribbit, ribbit. We'll back up to that dot. Slide from the ceiling to the floor, and then a big line back up to the ceiling. One more. Put your pencil on the dot. Big line from the ceiling to the floor. Everyone say ribbit. We'll back up to the ceiling because we frog jumped. We slide from the ceiling to the floor and then big line back up to the ceiling. So if you need to pause the video to get the second line done, go ahead and do that because we're going to go on to another line and I want you to stay up with me. Here they do not give us a box to keep our uppercase N's in, but we know our next one is going to start at this dot. So we have to finish our N before we get over to where this dot is. That way we don't run out of room. So put your pencil on the ceiling, on the starting dot they give us, and do a big line to the floor. Ribbit. Did you say ribbit with the frog? Slide from the ceiling to the floor, and then a big line back up to the ceiling. And see how the N stayed far away from this dot. That way it's not going to bump into the next uppercase N's bubble. Put your pencil on the dot. Big line to the floor. Ribbit. Slide from the ceiling to the floor and back up to the ceiling. And do your other two uppercase N's. And then here, we're going to skip the stop line for now, the stop sign. And here, you have to pretend there's an imaginary dot right there on the ceiling, because they did not give you a dot on which to start. So go ahead and just put your pencil on the ceiling, do a big line down, ribbit, slide from the ceiling to the floor, and back up to the ceiling. Now, we haven't been doing this before, but what is this right here? It is a stop sign, isn't it? I'm going to color the bottom of my stop sign black because poles are sometimes black. But what color are stop signs usually? Stop signs are usually red, so I am getting my red marker out, and you can get your red crayon out, and I'm going to color my stop sign red. So I have my stop sign colored red because that's usually what color a stop sign is. And you can go ahead and stop the video and you can color yours red as well. Or pause the video. Don't stop it because we do have the back side of this to do too. Are you ready to do the back side of your paper now? Make sure you have your name on it, and you may have to pause the video to write your name on it and then come back and join me. In this sheet, we're going to do our lowercase N. So, we put our pencil on the doorknob. That's what I call the dotted line, because a lowercase N is shorter than the uppercase N. So we don't start at the ceiling. We begin halfway down at the doorknob. So put your pencil on the dot and we dive down first. And then we swim up and over and around. And remember, it's important that we dive down because watch what happens. Don't do this. But watch what happens. If I make that first, then I have to pick my pencil up and go back and do that. But if we dive down, if we start at the dot and dive down and swim up and over and around, Then we get our end made in one fluid motion. Well, we don't have to pick up our pencil because this is not a frog jump letter. This is not a letter that we are going to pick our pencil up on. So we start at the dot, we dive down from the doorknob to the floor, we swim up and over and around. Never pick your pencil up on the lowercase n. Start at the doorknob, dive down, swim up and over and down. So I want you to pause the video and finish this front page. And I'm going to pause mine while I finish it. And then when you come back, I will have this finished, the top line. I have my top line finished now. So if you need a little bit longer, don't continue. Go ahead and pause the video. Now see how I'm putting my hand down on my paper? If I don't hold my paper with that hand, it's going to wiggle all over the place and it's going to make my writing very, very difficult. And it's going to be hard because my paper is going to move and my pencil is going to go places where I don't want it to go. So I am holding my paper still with that hand. Now here, they gave us the little boxes for the letters to live in because remember, we don't want to make them really big to where they bump into other letters. So we put our pencil on the starting dot, we dive down, we swim up and over and down, back down to the floor, and we stay in that box. Put your pencil on the dot on the doorknob, dive down, swim up and over and down. Put your pencil on the dot on the doorknob, dive down, swim up and over and down. Pencil on the dot on the doorknob, we always work from the top down. We dive down, we swim up and over and down. And I want you to pause the video and I want you to finish this second line. Make sure you have all of these ends in these boxes in the second line and then come back and finish with me. Now I have all of my ends finished in that second line. Now we're going to do the bottom line. On the bottom, they did not give us a starting spot. They gave us a starting spot. They did not give us a box to keep it in. So we have to imagine an imaginary box that our N has to stay in. So they did give us one to trace. We start at the dot on the doorknob. We dive down. We swim up and over and down. Start at the dot on the doorknob. Dive down. Swim up and over and down. And I want you to finish these ends. I have one more to do. And pause the video until you get all of those finished. Once you have all of those finished, then resume and come back and see me. Now I'm going to do this one. And remember, out here on the teacher check, they don't give us a dot to start with. We have to imagine our dot. So where was the dot on these others? Was it at the ceiling or was it at the doorknob? Well, if you look at all of our lowercase n's, they all began on the doorknob. So where do you think we're going to begin at? Right here. We're going to begin at the doorknob, aren't we? So we put our pencil on the doorknob and we dive down and we swim up and over and down. And you can go ahead and color your stop sign there too whenever you finish this video. Thank you for making your lowercase and uppercase N's with me today, and I hope you have a wonderful day.